So we can't start this problem without first working out how many students are in each category. So we need to know how many students take French, how many students take German, and how many students do either both or none. So the first piece of information we're given is that in total we have 25 students. So in total there are 25. So we know whatever the numbers are in our Venn diagram have to add up to 25. We know that 16 students in the tutor group study German. So 16 study German. Now the wording is really important because it doesn't say only studies German. So some of those 16 might also study French. And we know that 14 students study French. And again, the wording is important. It doesn't say only studies French. So some of those 14 students might also study German. And then the last piece of information we are given is that 6 students study both French and German. So that's where we can start. We know that 6 study French and study German. So on our Venn diagram, this is the area that does both French and German. So this is where our 6 would go, because that's how many students study French and study German. So then we can work backwards. So we know that 14 students study French, but 6 of those 14 students also study German. So we've already got 6 of the total number of students who study French, which is 14. So to work out the number of students who study French that goes into this part, study French only, is 14 minus 6, which equals 8. So we know that there are 8 students who only study French. And if we add the 8 and the 6 together, we get the 14 students who study French. And it's the same with the German. We know that there are 16 students who study German, but 6 of those 16 students also study French. So to work out the number of students that go in here, we need to do 16 minus 6 equals 10. So we know there are 10 students who only study German, but altogether there are 16 who study German and 6 of those also study French. So if we added those all up together, we would be left with 24. So if I just quickly add those together so you can see, equals 24. But we know we have a total of 25 students. So there is a difference of 1. So there must be 1 student who doesn't study excuse me, French or German. Okay, so you mustn't forget the elements that might be on the outside and not in either of your set. This might be a student who doesn't study either French or German. So now we've completed our Venn diagram, we can now answer the question. So what is the probability that a random student will study French? Well, we know that there are 14 students who study French and that the total number of students are 25. So the probability that we pick somebody who studies French is going to be 14 out of 25 because there are 14 students who study French. Doesn't matter that they also study German, but 14 students who study French. The next question says, what's the probability that they study French and German? That's really quite straightforward to see from our Venn diagram. So the probability they study French and German would be the intersection here. Okay, so that can also be written as French and German using the proper notation. So that would be 6 out of 25. Because there are 6 students who study both French and German. So that's 6 out of 25. So what about the number of students who study French but don't study German, to study French and study German, because it's in both sides. So we just want to know this section here, how many students only study French? So the number of students who only study French would be 8 out of 25. Okay, so the probability that they study French and not German. Remember that little, like a little apostrophe? So they study French and not German. Now the final question asks us for the the probability of a student picked at random that doesn't study French or German. So the probability that they don't study French or German, and that would equal 1 out of 25, because we worked out by doing our Venn diagram that there was 24 students who studied French, German, or French and German, and then there was only one student who didn't study either French or German. So it's quite easy to see from our Venn diagram how many students studied which subject and how many students didn't study either.